Hello and welcome back to NDTV Profit. We're now in conversation with the management of TVS Motor on the back of the new EV launch and amongst other key factors in the EV space. We're now being joined by Mr. Gaurav Gupta. He's the president of the India two-wheeler business at TVS Motor Company. Mr. Gupta, very good afternoon to you. Thanks so much for joining in and giving us time here at NDTV Profit. I just want to first start off with the new launch, Orbiter, the new brand for TVS. It has been, the iQube has been very substantially a huge success for you over the last few years. You have the Smart X also in the premium space, and now a third key brand. Just looking at the launch that you mentioned in this aspect, 3.1 kilowatt battery, price just a tad below 99, just a tad below a lakh essentially. Which segment are you trying to cater to? Because you have the iQube that is also a family EV and another commuter motorcycle or commuter EV scooter essentially. Just talk to us, which segment are you trying to target with this new launch?
Thank you, Puneet. Always a pleasure to speak with you here. And thank you very much. We at TVS are super excited about Orbiter. It is a new age electric vehicle scooter targeting at the young urbanite. It is, of course, a package, like you asked me about the segment we are targeting. We are looking at the urban mover specifically because it's got all of it put together. It's got style, it's got technology, it's got practicality, it's got minimalistic design, all of which appeals to the new urbanite. And that is a young segment which is growing across the country as well. We've been studying, and at TVS, we always look at studying consumer segments, consumer behaviors, and the patterns. And we found that this is an emerging area that we can look at and serving the customer with the right product, and hence the bringing in of the TVS Orbiter. And I must say that we already have been receiving a very, very positive response in the few hours from its launch, and we hope to build it from here.
Essentially, in this particular launch, with the iQube, you do attract a particular customer who wants that design as well as that durability. So essentially, over the last 2 to 3 years, we have seen, go from roughly 2.2 kilowatt all the way up to 5 kilowatt hours in terms of battery launches. With this, you started at 3.1. Are you trying to essentially target the first-time buyer essentially with this particular scooter as well? And talk to us about the price point as well a little bit if you can.
You're rightfully so. With this entry that we've got in the overall EV landscape, this will target also the first-time user for coming onto the EV segment, number one. Number two, in terms of, you mentioned the iQube being a family scooter, and that's rightfully so, is well poised in that segment. The Orbiter will, of course, be targeting a much younger profile, a much more urban profile. At the same time, the ones who are looking at practicality of zipping around and therefore for a daily commute, which will be a great solution for them. In terms of the overall price point, we always have believed in value maximization. And in terms of the features we brought in, first time we've got a 158 kilometer IDC range in this segment, which is going to be a wow. We've got a great combination of a front wheel of being 12 or 14 inches, which is again being a first in this segment, loaded with technology as well in terms of whether it is cruise control, hill hold, as well as connected features. Packing all of that in a great design package all put together, we've got the pricing, which we feel has been studied well and should appeal to the customers.
And Mr. Gupta, talk to us about the product as well, because is this essentially a new architecture built for the Orbiter?
You're right. This is a brand new platform that has been developed for the Orbiter.
And what type of cost savings do you expect? Because we've seen multiple versions essentially of the electric vehicle segment go through. A lot of your competitors have gone through generation 1 to generation 4 essentially. With this particular new architecture, any kind of savings as well as battery performance, if you can talk to us about what kind of expectations would you have with new platform with Orbiter essentially?
Puneet, the entire EV landscape is a very evolving area. Technologies are growing, changing. There's also a lot of amalgamation of the work in progress areas at the back end. So to having a clear pinpoint to say what will be the savings from a particular platform would not be the right approach, actually. I think the overall approach has to be more to look at the entire package in terms of whether it is the battery pack, in terms of the ergonomics, in terms of the entire deliverables for the customer. How does it all come together as one great wow for the consumer? I think that's the magic of bringing Orbiter to the customer right now.
Mr. Gupta, with this launch, you are launching it at 3.1 kilowatt hour. I'm sure that over the next few months you will launch multiple variants as well. But you are getting this 158-kilometer range. Do we expect a similar performance with the iQube essentially as well? Because while the range is quite similar, it's still at 145 kilometers at a similar battery pack. So is this also a new engine that you've developed, which is a much refined engine compared to what goes in the iQube right now?
See, both are different platforms, both serve to a different audience to a large aspect. At the same time, both are evolving in their own spaces. Our focus right now would be to really maximize and build up Orbiter and add on to the entire momentum of iQube also. And based on that, we are looking at building up the overall EV stance of TVS Motor in the country.
And just talk to us about the EV space as a whole, because over the last 2 years with a lot of planning as well as new launches, you managed to garner roughly about 1/4 of the market. Now you are the #1 player with almost 24 to 25% market share. How do you see this evolving over the next year or so? Because it's evolving on a monthly basis now, so I don't want to go too forward ahead. But by FY26 and somewhere close to FY27, is that the target internally to develop and remain at this 25% market share while the growth, of course, continues on a year-on-year basis?
See, if you look at some numbers, Puneet, from a year-on-year basis between April to July this year, the EV segment in two-wheelers has grown by above 20%. That's a good momentum. Of course, we would ask for more. At the same time, from our own perspective, yes, we have reached the figure you were talking about. But more important than just a market share number, our approach has always been to look at from a customer's perspective, are we being able to fulfill their requirements with their changing behavior and needs? And hence, with the adding on Orbiter to our existing portfolio of iQube, we want to maximize the opportunity that customers have to come into the TVS family. With that in mind, and with that as a way to build forward, we will be looking at, of course, growing in with more volumes and taking it even further.
And Mr. Gupta, one of your nearest competitors has come out with a filing on the exchanges that they've secured enough supplies of rare earth magnets in this particular time frame and don't see any kind of further impact of that on production. You seem to be actually not have any impact essentially over the last 2 to 3 months, because the numbers which is available on Vahan as well have been growing at a stellar pace. Would it be safe to assume that you've navigated this challenge, and now with ongoing conversations happening between the countries as well of a much better relation essentially with this aspect of HRE magnets, you don't seem to see any kind of impact, if any, at least in the near term?
Well, let me put it this way. Firstly, the situation of rare earth has impacted across the industry. Most of the players are impacted by that, including ourselves. And the situation is not completely green as of now. We have been able to manage somehow with our existing stocks and some approaches that we're looking at developing alternative technologies to support the situation. At the same time, while the numbers are there, they are short of what we would have liked to be at. So we are actually, working on a day-to-day basis with the supply constraint and working along with the guidance of the government. And we're very hopeful and optimistic that the situation gets resolved at the earliest. This has been on for the last few months, like I just said earlier, and work is in progress across all parameters.
And is there any rationale that you see essentially of ferrite-based motors as an alternative? Because it does seem to impact performance is what we've heard. If you can give us some perspective on that, and if TVS is looking at that as an option, I'm sure you are, but if you can give us some perspective of the practicality essentially of a ferrite-based motor.
See, fundamentally, I think it's important to always have speed and agility in the approaches to address situations which are surprising at some point in time. At this point, there are various approaches being addressed, experimented, explored to kind of counter the situation we all are facing right now. So it will not be appropriate to just look at one particular technology or one particular approach to be able to address it. Various solutions are being explored and worked upon. But we do feel and we remain optimistic for it to get resolved at the earliest.
Just one final couple of questions essentially on this new launch amongst other reasons. You've seen that with the evolution of iQube that we've seen over the years, Are you currently profitable or no, on just this EV vertical that you operate in for both the two-wheelers as the three-wheelers? If any comments you can get.
See, I must say that the government of India has really supported a lot in the progress and adoption of EV vehicles in India, and we are really thankful for the same. At the same time, we continue to work on various, pillars of engineering, research, and development, as well as our entire internal processes to make sure that we have the right product at the right place for our customers. That effort will continue to be on from our side, and we continue to explore various opportunities to maximize our market presence.
And one final question from my side is essentially, the iQube, I think last that Mr. Radhakrishnan had given the number was roughly 350 to 400 direct store access for iQube. What would that be currently, if you can update us? And also, do you plan to have more integration of standalone stores for iQube as a strategy, or would you continue your current networks of roughly 3,000 to 4,000 outlets as well? Where do you see the differentiation between the customer? Because do you see them walking in much more intent essentially in a standalone iQube store, and hence the benefit of opening much more in this particular time frame?
I must say that we are very privileged, and we continue to work on expanding our footprint of network in the country. It helps us to reach our customers not only from a perspective of buying, at the same time to service them also, and therefore really engage with them and build the value and trust for the TVS brand. Particularly for our electric vehicle offering, like you mentioned, we have got various routes for the same. One, of course, if a consumer is wanting to walk into a physical store, that's welcome across the country right now. We are expanding as we speak. Secondly, in terms of direct-to-customer, online e-commerce is also available across 600 points as of now, and that's only increasing. Third point, of course, is that when people are able to book online and they're able to really work that entire part from digital to physical and make it a combination for their requirements. But the key, of course, is to expand and maximize our footprint and help customers reach out to their favorite electric vehicle or otherwise from a TVS family.
So would you be around the number of 400 stores as of now for the standalone iQube stores?
See, in terms of standalone iQube stores, we have much more than 400 as of now. We are close to about 1,000 odd centers is where we are actually supporting our iQube sales across the country. Having said so, the current situation of supply constraint is impacting our overall stocking in the various points in the country, which we hope to address very soon.
Well, Mr. Gupta, thanks so much for joining it, giving us perspective on your brand new launch as well as what's happening with the electric vehicle space as a whole. We look forward to our next conversation. But thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Well, that's all the time we have on this edition of a very special conversation with TVS. Stay tuned to NDTV Profit for more.